Case with most disturbing twist you will ever hear. Number 1. Richard Chase. The most unsettling twist you will ever hear is, in this case, so beware. Caution is advised when viewing. You have recently become involved in the most concerning investigation you will ever learn about. We will talk about Richard Chase's complicated background in this video, also known as the Vampire of Sacramento. Richard Chase was a serial killer who instilled a great deal of fear in Sacramento. Sacramento and the state of California were terrified in the late 1970s by Chase, an infamous serial killer. It disturbed me to see how fixated he was on blood and death, and his actions were revolting. In this video, we'll examine the intricacies of his illegal activity, take into account the many variables that may have led to it, and examine the consequences of his deeds for the area. The Californian city of Santa Clara is where Richard Chase was born on May 23, 1950. His harsh familial upbringing and his parents' subsequent divorce when he was still a small child both played a major role in the severe decrease in his mental health that he underwent throughout his life. When Chase was younger, he exhibited signs of a mental illness, including setting fire to objects and killing things, including himself and other animals. His connection with his own father was turbulent, and he also did not get along well with his half-brother. Chase's conduct greatly altered as he grew older, much more so than in the past. He began abusing substances like LSD and marijuana at this time, which not only made his mental condition much more unstable, but also signified the start of his deterioration and ultimately caused his death. He became more and more persuaded that the only way he would be able to survive was if he drank blood, since his heart was starting to fail. In 1977, Richard Chase took the first step toward committing the series of murders that he would eventually carry out. His first known victim was a woman by the name of Ambrose Griffin, who was in her 40s when she passed away. He broke into her house and killed her there. Then, he continued to tear her body apart, gulping her blood as he went. The following month, he continued his killing rampage, taking the lives of kids, adults, and even animals in addition to those he had previously taken. He frequently left his victims with several knife wounds, drank their blood, and dismembered their bodies after killing them. He typically left many stab wounds on his victims. The authorities were alerted to Chase's actions and immediately began looking for him after learning of his whereabouts. Chase was challenging to apprehend, though, as he left no physical traces of himself at the scenes of his murders, including no prints or other telltale signs. Because of this, police enforcement was unable to find him and prosecute him. He attempted to break into the residences of others, even though they had locked their doors, but he was unable to do so since they were secured. Finally, in January 1978, Richard Chase was taken into custody. Following his capture, he was charged with 6 distinct murders. The evidence that was produced throughout the trial led to a conviction on all counts and the imposition of a death sentence. The fact that Chase frequently laughed and made strange noises while in court suggested that he did not feel any regret for his crimes. The twist. The information that Richard Chase had delusions and a fascination with blood was the most upsetting component of this case. He thought that his blood was becoming powder and that he needed to consume other people's blood to restore his own supply. This made him feel as though he had to murder others. In addition, he asserted that he could create a super race by using his own blood to conceive children with other women, who would then pass on his DNA to their offspring. He believed this would enable him to carry on his traits to future generations. Because of the severity of Chase's preoccupation with blood and the hallucinations that accompanied it, he finally reached the point where he would combine the blood of several different species of animals and then consume the concoction. In addition, he would immerse himself in the blood and even administer blood injections into his veins. He frequently performed this action. Suicide. While Richard Chase was confined to the confines of his jail cell in the month of December of 1980, he committed suicide. In the time leading up to the time that he was to be executed, he had just a few short months left to live. Before he ultimately downed them all at once, he had been hoarding the antidepressant tablets for a few weeks. He employed this tactic to combat his sadness. Many people are now curious as to what motivated him to conduct the things he did after learning of his death shook the neighborhood. The story of Richard Chase stands out as one of the most upsetting examples of criminal behavior among all of the records of criminal activity. The neighborhood will never be the same again as a direct result of his obsession with blood, his paranoia, and the horrifying things he did to others in the community. Chase was unable to get the help he needed for his mental illness, despite showing signs consistent with the disease. He broke the law as a direct result. Those dealing with mental health concerns should take heed of his situation and seek treatment and help as soon as possible, as he did. Let's resolve to work together to stop similar disasters in the future in honor of the lives lost in this senseless tragedy. The chilling story of Richard Chase serves as a warning about the dangers of drug abuse and failing to seek treatment for mental illness. His victims' spirits may now rest in peace.